Great. We are live. And today I've got Kirsty Hall with me here for Lockdown Lowdown. So hi, Kirsty.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Fantastic to have you on. Something completely different today, to have a Pilates teacher. But before I give everything away, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Kirsty Hall, and I'm a local girl. I come from Dollar originally, and I came back to Stirling. I'm in Stirling now, and my company is called Improve With ... And then basically adding things at the end of that. So initially it was purely Pilates, but that was some time ago. So I do a number of things now that are a number of tools, if you like, to help people improve their movement, I suppose, is the easiest way to try and describe it. I find it quite difficult to define myself because I haven't had to do it in a long time, because the word of mouth thing kind of did most of it. But because that has reduced somewhat, there's not people at school gates anymore at the moment. They're not going to their clubs as much. I'm having to think about how to communicate exactly what I do. But I kind of sit in the natural movement. I spend a lot of time barefoot, that kind of stuff. I sit in a lot of floors, and I try and help people get back to a more natural body, so that it kind of serves them a bit more and can, I suppose, help them age well, so that you can keep doing the stuff that you like for longer. So I have a number of tools now. So I have Pilates, I have yoga, because I find that sometimes yoga is more appropriate to some people and some circumstances. I am a mindfulness teacher. I have a program called the Melt Method, and I do a lot of fascial kind of work, fascial fitness. But it's all self-care. I don't touch, I'm not a hands-on body worker. I'm a kind of hands-off body worker, if you like.
And for people like me who maybe don't know exactly what the difference is between Pilates and yoga, can you explain a little bit? To me, they sound very similar, but I'm probably not well up to date with it.
Well, I can only give you the knowledge I know. So I get asked this quite a lot, actually, and from people who don't have the experience. But the first thing I'd say is that it depends what kind of Pilates, and it depends what kind of yoga. Yoga is a much broader thing than just a physical movement. The asanas in yoga are only a small part of yoga. And Joseph Pilates was a man. If people don't know that about Pilates, he was a guy. And he was part of the kind of physical culture, and was interned. He was German, and he was interned in the Isle of Man during the war. He came from a variety of backgrounds. I think he was a boxer. He was the first anatomical model or something. But he devised a whole load of work to help the German soldiers who were in the Isle of Man. And the big kind of relationship to right now is that seemingly none of his guys got the flu. So so he invented quite a lot of machines that were kind of bed-like and that kind of thing. So there's a whole study behind Pilates, but I think that he pinched quite a bit from yoga. Pinched a bit from Feldenkrais, pinched a bit from all these kind of gurus at that time that were part of the physical culture, and brought it together in a system. So the more traditional Pilates is actually a system. It's a wee bit like an Ashtanga yoga, which has a system to it. But there's been lots of different ways of teaching it since then. And so sometimes Pilates can look very like yoga, and yoga can look very like Pilates. But I think at the early stages, to help people understand it, I would probably say that yoga is about getting somewhere and perhaps holding it, and whereas Pilates is about how you get there. So the movement, the journey to the pose and back. That might be helpful.
Okay, very good. So yoga is much older than Pilates then?
Okay, well, that's a whole story as well. It depends what you think of as yoga. So the yoga asanas actually are not that old. The physical part of yoga is not that old, but the other stuff is very, very old. Yeah. So the kind of like, being yogic, and there's lots of principles involved, and it's more about a way of living your life rather than Pilates is not about a way of living your life. I hope that helps.
I see. I see. Yeah. Okay. And so when there is no lockdown, I suppose you meet with people, you have a class in person, or what does it look like for you normally?
Well, normally, or before the lockdown, I would teach classes, weekly classes, and workshops, and pop-up classes, and one-to-ones. So just depends on how people wanted to work with me, really, and it depends also what they're coming to their movement for. So the community, classes are lovely for people who like to come to classes and mix with people, but some people's bodies are too sore for that, so they have to start in a different place and come from a different place. But certainly pre-lockdown, kind of regular classes, workshops, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And I take it things have changed now. You can't meet in a physical building and have classes. Have you been able to shift things online, or how have things
Yes, fortunately, my background kind of helps me towards that. So most of my people have come with me online, and it's been interesting listening to their experiences of that and how it's different to I'm just trying to gather the data right now and asking them how they're feeling about it. So in a couple of weeks I'll know more, but certainly, it's a different experience, and it has benefits and downsides to it. So it's a bit paradoxical for some folks, but it's working quite well for me right now. And I was quite fortunate because I have, as I say, I have some of the skills to be able to do that quite quickly. And my people are a community as well, so they're not just drop-ins. They come to me, and they're usually with me for years. So it's a community. They've got a regular commitment to coming, and I have a lot of workshop materials. So I have things that are quite easy to deliver online in that format, if you like. So, but it's all early days. Really.
And what about the technology? I suppose if you normally meet in person, then suddenly everything has to shift online. Was that tricky to do that, or are you? I mean, what do you do? Do you do Zoom sessions with people doing the Pilates?
For all of us, it's been a huge learning curve, and it's not been a smooth one sometimes. But it's the more weeks go on, the easier it gets. So we use Zoom just because that was the only one that I had come across at that time, and it's working fine. It works well, and I have, you can see behind me, I have a room that I zoom in, and so I had this space, and I had the technology and the confidence to use the technology. I think that's quite important for a lot of people, clients or not, to use it. So it's worked okay, and I'm on a rapid learning curve of what else works, probably similar to yourself, is playing with buttons and seeing what happens, and if it can increase the experience for people when they're online. Because I think what's happened is that some people have kind of, well, it'll be over soon, I'll just wait. And now we're in May, and it's not over, and it's not going to, we're not going to be able to gather in classes for a long time. So, it's now a matter of try and get your routine back, make sure you're moving at least as much as you were moving before, if not more, if you have the opportunity to do that. So it's going to be interesting as we go forward, the development for many of us, kind of movement people that used to gather people in crowds, so we're going to have to think very carefully about the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Even when lockdown is over, it'll probably not go instantly back to having 20 people in one room and doing what you have always done before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my classes are limited sizes. So, we would kind of have a maximum of 12 for the weekly classes. The workshops are obviously different. But even 12 is probably too many. So it's I think it's a big think for many of us, and a lot of my fitness friends have asked me how I'm doing it. So I think that a lot of people are starting to think that way, because it could well be a year before sensibly we can come together in a community hall again, you know. So I think there's a lot of thoughts going on right now, and I'm just feeling a wee bit I'm feeling comfortable at the moment in terms of the way that my business was structured, but I know that for some others it's quite difficult to do. Yeah, for sure.
That sounds good. And in terms of the very practical things, if people want to get in touch with you, book a session, be it one-to-one or a group session, is this working via your website, or how do people get in touch?
Well, the website is really the hub of things, and you know, I've got live classes, and I also have I can do one-to-ones, obviously, and I can do group sessions. But I also have a studio library, so I have a library of recordings of classes and some tutorials, and actually some just bits of fun. I mean, my mum's come and she's done some yoga with me, so I've got like mum and me yoga and stuff. I'm still working on my husband, who could probably do with a bit more movement than he's getting right now. But so yeah, there's you know, there's a number of different things on that library that people are finding quite interesting. So for instance, I have you know, most of my work now is around natural movement, as I said before. And one of my big teachers is a lady called Katie Bowman, who's a biomechanist. So she has a big focus on rib placement, right? So where your ribs are, and most people when they lie down, a lot of people, their ribs are popping up, because they've got this kind of kyphosis in their spine. So we use blankets to prop people into alignment so their core can fire properly and that kind of stuff. So I've been battling to try and explain the blanket thing to all my clients for, you know, a couple of months before we went into lockdown. And now this is a wonderful opportunity. I made a little video called The Ruddy Bloody Blankets, excuse my French. And they can go and in fact, I think anybody can go onto my site and see that little vignette of how to set yourself up in blankets. So some of the technology has been pretty useful for those things. They can see me doing it, you know, instead of you know, me coming and poking at people and trying to get them to do things. They can watch me do it, and I've got all the props here, you know, it's everything's here. And they too also have more props at home, you know. So instead of coming to the community hall and having to use my blankets, they've got stuff at home they can use. So some of it's been pretty positive, actually, you know, in terms of being able to educate people on things that I couldn't before.
Yeah, completely understand. That sounds very good. Thank you for sharing that about your business. It's an area that I really don't know very much about, but I know that my wife Gemma obviously has been in touch with you, and I think she's joined you for a couple of sessions. Yeah,
well, she comes to the melt sessions, which are that's a much more fascial approach to work. So a lot of people are familiar with hard rollers and kind of ironing up and down your body. This is a slightly different approach. We come through the neural system, and the rollers are soft. So if I show you what the roller looks like. So the rollers can bend. So the rollers are bendy rollers, rather than the traditional hard ones, which a lot of people have got kind of lying around the house that their kids use as sabers. So we do a lot of shearing rather than rolling. You know, it's slightly different. So, and that's really popular. I get about 40 or 50 people coming to those workshops that I'm holding online. They're really successful because there's a lot of sore people. They can't get to their physios, they can't get to their chiros or their osteos. So this is an alternative. This is a self-care to get out of pain, really, all those niggles sitting at the computer.
Fantastic. No, that's
good.
That's really good. And just tell us briefly, you said earlier you live in Stirling. Who's in your family? Who's in your house? And is it stressful?
No, it's not. It's not stressful. I've got to say it's not stressful. The only thing that's stressing me out is having to do my own cleaning, Marcus. So I've had a cleaner since I was 21 years of age, and now I'm having to clean my cleaner. So no, it's not. I can't say it's stressful because we're privileged to have a big enough house for us to get away from each other. It looks like you've got a separate spot as well. And you know, we're very blessed with that. We have a garden, you know, we live in a nice area. So my husband is at work is working from home. So he's downstairs where I used to be, where my studio was. He's there, and my mum is also with us, so we're shielding her, and so she's quite used to being kind of home centric, so it's quite nice for her, and you know, as I say, she sometimes joins in with me, which is nice. So we're all good, and the only kind of, I suppose, source of worry is my son is in Australia, backpacking, so we have to keep an eye on the Australian news as well. So yeah. So that's really the only.
But he's well.
Yes, he's well. He's out helping them restore the fences from the bushfires. So he's purposeful and he's safe where he is, which is nice. But we just can't get him home, so he's going to have to stay there for a little while longer, which I think he's quite happy about. So
yeah. Oh, excellent. I'm going to spring one last question on you before we wrap up. What do you miss most? Is there anywhere where you say, as soon as this lockdown is over, at least to some degree over, I'm going to go to, or I'm going to meet that person? Is there anyone or anything?
Certainly, for me, it's people. You know, people.
I thought you said pizza for more.
No, people. My last newsletter, actually, I don't write a regular newsletter. I only write when I kind of feel like I've got something to say. And I was so missing cuddling and hugging, because I'm a hugger, and I know that not everybody's a hugger, but I'm a hugger, and I kind of miss the touch. So I wrote this. I wrote this piece that was actually supposed to be about the science of touch and whatever, but I used the example of my son and not being able to be with him on his birthday. And I got such a wonderful array of lovely messages from people, you know, picking that up. So that obviously resonated, I think, is a few people are missing their families and stuff. But I have little friends.
Yeah.
I have one little friend and I have another little friend. So I use inanimate objects to help me stay sane.
That's very good. Well, I hope we can all get back to lots of hugging soon.
I hope so. I hope so. And are you missing much?
Super.
Mark?
All right. Well, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, I would have probably said no problem. I thought when you started to say people, I was thinking, oh yeah, I miss pizza very much as well. But I miss hugs. Thank you so much for coming on. That was really fun to chat to you, and I'm sure I speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. Bye.